In celebration of Teacher Appreciation Week, and specifically for Thank a Teacher Day, we at Inventionland Institute wanted to share some of our experiences with our teachers that have led us to become the education company that we are today. I know that when I was in high school, there was a teacher that I will never forget, Mr. Rafferty. He was a pretty old teacher at the time, and he was my physics teacher. I remember one day that we went into class and we happened to notice that the intercom box on his wall had wires sticking out of it, and there was this switch that had been just kind of wired in haphazardly on top of it. And we asked him, what's the deal with this switch that's on top of your box? And he says, oh, that's so that I can turn off the morning announcements. And I mean, we're high school students. We're like, what? You can't turn off the morning announcements. This is like an institution. You have to listen to the morning announcements. And by the way, that's part of the room. You don't own that. I mean, are you allowed to do that? And I remember when, after one of the girls had asked him if he was even allowed to do that, he looks at her, and bear in mind, he was an elderly gentleman. He says, sweetheart, I'm so old, I could retire yesterday. The paperwork's already filed. All I have to do is not show up. That day, I learned a lot. Maybe not so much about physics, but an awful lot about life. And I'll never forget that. So to Mr. Rafferty, wherever you are, who's probably not with us at this point, but even if his family's with us, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Rafferty. I will never forget you.
All right. So my teacher is Mr. Pugh, who was a math teacher that absolutely believed in me. He made me a student who was not very good at math into a student who loved math. He spent time with me making sure that I understood everything when he realized I was struggling. And he's a teacher that I actually had in middle school and then again in high school. And he saw, even when I wasn't one of his students, that I was having a hard time, and invited me to his after school study program so he could teach me math that just wasn't making sense at that point. He had a huge impact in my life, and I am so grateful because now I'm a math lover as well as an art and drama lover, which I'd already really loved in school. And he showed me that you can love all of those things.
Hello, hello. I wanted to send out my thanks to Mrs. Hollinger, my second grade teacher. She transformed the little me from this pudgy little dorky dough ball who didn't want to go to school into a pudgy little dorky dough ball that wanted to go to school. I had just moved cross country with my family from California to Pennsylvania. Didn't know anybody, didn't like school, all of this stuff, and all my life it was just, well, I don't like school. They don't do fun things. And I come from a family of teachers, so they tried to do the classic teaching method. Well, write it 100 times until you remember it. Oh, we'll practice your multiplication tables. And it just didn't stick. Until she sat my folks down and said, listen, Dan is what I like to call a random abstract learner. Smartest kid in the class, but you cannot get him to do a single thing unless he's interested in it. He will fail every single class of his own volition because he doesn't think it's fun. And what she did is not just teach me how to make school fun for myself, but how to appreciate it. And that changed me from this kid who failed even the art classes because I couldn't draw inside the lines into a solid B student. I'm not that smart, but she got me to where I am today. And for that, I want to say thank you.
Okay, so a teacher from my past that deserves recognition is Mr. Jeff Powell. So currently he's a Pennsylvania state rep for the 60th district, which is from part of my hometown, Ford City. So back in the day, he taught Ford City High School, which is no longer, sadly, but he taught history and government, which I still to this day love historical fun facts. I mean, I love fun facts in general, but love my history. But what stuck with me was that he taught the value of supporting our local community. But not only did he do that in his entire career, but he helped get the students involved and want to help the community. And what he did was he helped lead Leo Club, which was the youth version of Lions Club. And I just remember being excited about community service. Like, I couldn't wait to go out there and like pick up trash and like paint park benches, which is really weird for like kids in high school to want to do. But I was always excited for like, when was the next time we had to go out there and help the community? But that really got me like enthused about helping the local area. So, and I really think like those lessons still hold true today more than ever. So Mr. Powell, I thank you, and I still believe you're a Jedi. Additionally, I want to give a shout out to my sister, Sarah. She teaches emotional and behavioral support, and she always finds a way to make education fun and exciting for her students.
All right, thanks. I'd like to thank two teachers back from my high school time. One would be Mr. Lewis. He was my science teacher. I always wanted to get in the art field, and I was really liked science too because it's a lot of hands-on stuff. And I'll never forget how much he would push me to keep doing my art, even though I kept being, no matter what if I go in the art, I'll never become anything. And he would buy paintings and a lot of things off of me for his home. I remember him coming to my house to meet my parents. Just whenever he was buying one of my paintings, he just wanted to tell them how much he hated what I was doing. I'll never forget too, one of the days in his class, he stood on his head on a table just to grab everybody's attention to look, say, hey, let's do this, let's have some fun. And my other teacher, Miss Thompson, I don't know where I would be without her. She was my art teacher. She opened my eyes to so many different types of art out there that really just got me excited, and actually even changed my career focus when I was going into college. And my first year in college was pretty much a recap of everything that she already taught me. So it was just a great experience, and I felt so much prepared for that and prepared for life. Thank you again, Mr. Lewis and Miss Thompson. I don't know where I'd be without the two of you.
That's awesome. The teacher that I want to thank is Mr. Obrzezinski, or Mr. Ob as we called him. He was my librarian and library studies teacher during middle school. So he was the first teacher who I'd really connected with, and he took the time to connect with students. So he took the time to learn about them, their families, what classes they were taking, who they were friends with, things like that. He taught me to love reading. In fact, the way that he talks about books is the way that I talk about books to this day. He always recommends them like he's introducing one of his, old best friends that he's got. My fondest memory of him is actually the way he introduced books and reading to students, to particularly my class. And the best example that I could think is when he taught us Orson Welles' War of the Worlds. I remember just the buzz of excitement from my entire class when we entered the library. We were all excited to hear the radio show, and we were all instantly whisked back to 1938. It was just magic. He taught and he coached, and he always made himself available to any student who needed even just like a silent time in the library. So thank you, Mr. Obb. And with that being said, we all wanted to extend our thank you to teachers, because you're not just teachers. You guys are so much more. You're nurses and therapists, enforcers and mentors, you're guardians and friends. With that, from the bottom of our hearts, we extend the most sincere thank you. Have an awesome Teacher Appreciation Week, and happy Thank You Teacher Day. Bye.